Good.
Are you get the question by this?
Yes. Good. Thank you. Yeah. Very comfortable.
I want to tell you something about for the new name because you really about 9 o'clock and 10 I come here to sit up here real slow. Okay? In my house, I go out about 9 o'clock. I come here about 9, 10, 9:50. You and Anna really I drive okay. Bác là để nói chuyện đem về nói chuyện qua cho đó để trong điện thoại của đối chị. Ok, vậy để nói chuyện đây.
One sutra for the sutra. Understand? Do we have? Kinh cô đưa chị cũng kinh làm đẹp quá, đẹp quá, kinh bên hôm nay. Ủa phải tiếng Việt phải không? Phải tiếng Việt không?
Chưa tiếng
Anh
Can I get one more?
Oh, you I don't know the queue go off the phone.
Okay, thank you. So I think the next
You want to? Yeah.
Don't follow your GPS.
Coi bữa nay ông đó
Don't follow
nói
your
là
GPS.
Ông nào?
Tết ông Vinh ông nói với con là
Maybe we'll take you to another road. The Ontario Hydro Road, which is a really, really comfortable road with a lot of gravel. So we're not
thứ hai trường chỉ có sửa thứ ba còn là sau còn được đi xuống về chùa luôn.
Yeah, follow the map, not GPS.
Có cái sửa
Whatever the Jew on the flag. Yeah.
con làm một đi chị nghe nó biết ban vậy
cho một số việc
nhưng mà thầy phải truyền khẩu cho
trong đó có người phải truyền khẩu thì cái chuyện phát triển
thì thứ ba con đang nấu thứ hai có con
Your grandma's calling you? Where is she?
có cái chuyện đó là
There's more.
hỏi người
Yes. One more. One more.
Close the door.
Lama Dangumbo Jimbayang Lan Chanza Gange Loje Jimye Jimba Nidara Nanda Rosa Jinye Dimgun Jijin Seye Nije Dogara Lemon Nanda Sepe Tsenra Mani Mendong Donga Jeser Rozo Grimba Gujie Hello and do you young things on you the general Yemo Yemo the Chadron Rose Mare Mazen Domine Jinian the Lodging Soju in the Jose Juda Juda Junye Jinde Dalu Yange Marabazana de Marabazana de Marabazana de Marabazana de Umarabazana de Zeden Jinji Chenro Zenji Kale Demo Membarazan Kadan Denji Yongo Tomai Lode Kobe No Andu Nanji Jimur Jimzi Janda Kadin Zonga Majiba Palo Jinji Jijabe Jindu Jima Mebala Wera the Dembozum Beba Jimbe Bonen Chanza Jinjazu Shivan and Sarabji Chawan Dutu Jesus and Barajeso Kangi Jazon the Yemiman Gazar Zambe Nola Jin Zambez and Rumber and Rubin Migin to Jidana Venezuela and Jidensum Jekon Jabe Rombe Mogarbe Jabe Dirin Dale no bozzer and Jay no Doran Jun and Jendo and Zobije and then Chombarwe Pema John and Dale in the Rojon Burgari and Jono Tommy in Jolan Chijinda Chijin Bozo Zamni Jenjo Namjinda Ejon only the girl Jenny Bebo and then Gunjunga Shazardo Nibis in the Vinajava Plongeon Ramjam Jajinda Ejon Gombilone Pobete Jedro, Nivam Jambi Anjenda Ejon, Jenny Pamendi Shiza, Punjaran to Jiji, Medanawa, Paden Mamija Jeda Ejon, Ribolavada, to Juden Jamema Damazo, Mongozanda Novajin, Novajin Bezo, Vijay Chinchilla Menda Ejon. Naya, Kadin Sanjay Kinya Hadidin, Sayan, Jalazo, Dazon Lamna Chula, Juju Dongi Dena, the Jelaman Juba Kansoda, the Nambi Jabebe, Sember deva padan dirjeje namariyan damba laike dalo dani jinge nunda namege nanda dua gunje dananje zamba tamje ge doso suru tejunje majur namge tandanyam besan jen tamje namjol dengi deval anameva yanda bunzo besanje jingu haran bachina chine jam bevra sha eichelo Teba chimbe shungo, jese chimbo shiwala, teni jinzebe, chanju simbi chokolan chupa, teni tsu shimbo sene, nyamso lawa yo nyambo, samba chanju chobo puche tena chebe sense of. So, that before we begin this actual teaching, and we need to have this right intention or the motivations, the supreme intentions which can transform this our meritorious activity of teaching and listening Dharma gets into the cause of enlightenment. So therefore, we need to generate the bodhicitta in this way that for the sake of motherly sentient beings, regardless, in order to liberate them from this secular existence and its cause, and to lead them to complete enlightenment. For that purpose, and I'm going to listening this Mahayana scripture composed by Shantideva called the Bodhicharyavatara or the way of Bodhisattva's life. And then whatsoever I understand, I will try my best to put into practice. So generating mind in this way, it's considering as a generating awakened mind or the bodhicitta. And top of this great intention and also the sure conduct or the manner while listening Dharma teachings should be in this way that listen carefully in an excellent way and try to quote it. These are the two steps that after we done, then it's considering it's complete the preparation part of listening Dharma teaching. And then the now actual Dharma teaching is the Bodhicharyavatara, which has a 10 chapter that and 4 main theme. And among this 4 main theme, described by this within this 10 chapter. The first 3 chapter is to the main point of first 3 chapter is the persons who is willing to have a bodhisattva's vow within oneself, how and one should have it, what are the methods or what are the that we should do and how we can have it bodhisattva's vow within oneself. And then the second 3 chapters, which is 4th, 5th, and 6th, and not to just having within oneself in this bodhisattva's vow, but also to how to maintain that whatsoever we received so far. And then 7th, 8th, 9th chapter is the third theme, is to not to just maintain or to protect that what we receive bodhisattva's vow, but also further how one can increase or develop further until what the final destiny, that until what destiny that what we could develop this bodhisattva bodhicitta. And then the last theme within one chapter, this 10th chapter, that dedicating all the merit that whatsoever that merit that we accumulated by teaching or practicing all this orderly. Among this for the 10th chapter with the 4 main theme, that first theme we completed, and today we are here in the second theme, which is the 4th, 5th, and 6th chapter. the main point of this 3 chapters is to how to maintain the Bodhisattva's vow, which we already received. And then this 4th chapter, it's completed that how to generate the sense of carefulness to not to transgress the Bodhisattva's vow. And then now here, this chapter number 5, further also that giving some other additional method that how one can, protect or how or one, in order not to transgress one's own Bodhisattva's vow, how the additional method that we should use. And then Shantideva here introducing this vigilant, or what you call the introspection or the vigilant. Vigilant or introspection, and sometimes we may hear in this chapter Shantideva mainly talking about this remembering and introspection that combine in together to protect the vow that which we received already. So it begins with this now chapter 5, the first stanza, that lapa suan debai rabdu dimne simson days, sim the suan majina lapa suan yom news, that which is translated into English. Those who wish to keep the training must with perfect self-possession guard their mind. Without this guard upon the mind, the training cannot be preserved. So this now first stanza is the brief or the very short instruction. It is not kind of like describing the many reasons. It is just introducing, it is kind of like a keep instructions, that it is just saying that now since that we are trying to protect or maintain this vow which we received, the Bodhisattva's vow, in order not to transgress that we already learned this, what kind of precepts that we should keep properly. Either they depend on the individual's capabilities, that oneself it is inferior practitioner, then with the 1 precepts, and mediocre practitioner, then with the 4 precepts, and then higher or the great practitioner, and all those 20 root downfall of the 20 precepts of the root downfall of Bodhisattva's vow. So it depends on the individual, and then individual also can improve oneself through maintaining 1 precept to the next 4 precepts, then to the 20 precepts. That is also showing the step by step, that as in Shantideva when we take the Bodhisattva's vow, that we also saying that how those in the past, those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, how they step by step they practice this Bodhisattva way of Bodhisattva's life. Similar like that, I will also practicing this all precepts step by step. So this also showing that us that how one can practice the Mahayana path or the Bodhisattva's vow with those precepts step by step too. And then now any of whether one individual, whether individual self is the inferior practitioner or mediocre practitioner or great practitioner. However, there will be involved some precepts to maintain in order to not transgress this Bodhisattva's vow. And then top of that, not just these are only talking about that if we encounter or if we if we break any of those precepts, it will transgress our pledge or the promise or the commitment. But on the other hand, also in order to maintain this precious Bodhisattva's vow, bodhicitta, that what really would say methods help us to maintain this bodhicitta itself is those meditating upon those four immeasurable and then practicing those six prajna paramitas such as a generosity practice, morality practice, patience, and then diligent meditation and wisdoms. So keeping within one's mind those sense will protect us, will help us to protect this bodhicitta. That so now either this is now it is talking about here that those who wish to keep the training, they keep the training here. What is talking about training? It's talking about the bodhisattva way of bodhisattva's life. So the way of bodhisattva's life has actually this training can be summarized within this six prajna paramita, or it can be summarized within three, that morality, samadhi, and wisdom. And morality, samadhi, and wisdom, that morality wise, that avoiding those root downfall and engaging into those practice. This is considering kind of like a morality. And then based on those two practice, and then try to benefiting others with the four methods that we call doing obushi, kind of like a generous, and then talking accordance with the another's capabilities, and then what do you call it? And then telling truth, and oneself is also that practicing that what oneself is telling to others, and then telling truth, and also self, that whoever telling truth, they themselves is also practicing, trying best to practicing that it's on its meaning. So through that way, trying to benefiting others. So this is kind of like now here it is training. So the training means this is what it is talking about, that we need to understand. Those who wish to keep the training must, with the perfect self-possession, guard the mind. Now, either we want to avoid those root downfall, or we want to engage into any of those four immeasurable or six prajna paramita practice, or the four method of benefiting others. Any of those practice, as long as whoever wish to keep the training, that the main point here now, Shantideva is introducing the main key point, that what one should try to do it is the perfect self-possession, guard their minds. Now this is really just talking about that you should put effort, rub to dimne Samsung days, that you should put hardship or the effort to protect your mind. So send this one majanas. Then now second, another two line, the next two line is talking about a little bit reason that why, if that those who wish to keep the training must with the perfect self-possession, and if we don't protect or the guard one's own mind, then without this guard upon the mind, then what we could not do is that what we wishing is to keep the training. Keep the training cannot be preserved. That is kind of like here Shantideva not explaining the reasons much. It is just kind of like saying it. That persons whoever wish to maintain or keep they are training. So now training, you understand what it's talking about. It is talking about those precepts, and it is talking about those practice, and it is talking about the meditation and wisdom. This is what it's training, the Bodhisattva's training. You should understand that one. That person, those who wish to keep the training, that training, and the main character or the point that in order to keep those training, what one should do is to guard or the protect one's mind. That protecting one's mind is the main point here to be able to keep the training. And without guarding or without protecting one's own mind, that we won't be able to protect our own training. The training cannot be preserved. This is kind of like a very brief instruction. This is just saying it. Shanti was just saying it without any reason. That he's not providing here reason. Actually, he's providing reason later. But this is kind of like a short pit instruction. It is just like saying it that, okay, person, whoever wants to keep training, they must guard their mind. Without guarding your own mind, you won't be able to keep training. That's it. And then now, the next stanza is now from next stanza towards onwards. Then it is explaining its reason why. This first stanza is brief, short instruction. And then the next, from next stanza, second stanza towards onwards, then he is explaining that why one must, guard one's own mind. That he's trying, that he's best to let us understand. Now this is something that that persons who is trying to train themselves to the Mahayana path or the way of Bodhisattva's life and what one should do. He's here that Shantideva was mainly trying to clarify within oneself that someone, it is happening a lot sometimes that we want to do some practice, but then on the other hand, we don't know what to do because they are so vast. It is so vast information that it is so many different informations providing. So now Shantideva, he is first of all, he is trying to give us with a conclusion. So this is what you need to keep in your mind. The key point is that you need to protect your mind. Then as long as you protect your mind, then you will be able to keep training. You will be able to maintain your Bodhisattva's vow. This is what he's talking about. And so basically that we have this conduct and manner and attitude, right? Manner and attitude. But here, attitude, when we talk about attitude, it is mainly talking about mind, isn't it? Is it? Mind. Manner is kind of like related with the physical and verbal. Most likely, isn't it? So now, actually, yes, that in order to keep training, that we need to maintain both this kind of like a manner and attitude. But here Shantideva was referring here the attitude is the main point that you should try to perfect yourself in order to keep training this way of Bodhisattva's life. And this is first stanza, that brief, short, kind of like a pit instructions. So letting us know that what is the main point that we should work with. We should work with it. And then now from here, Shantideva providing the reasons that why he's saying that why we should work with it, why we should work with to guard our own mind. And then he is providing us the reason here. Semji lambo yendawe, narben nyoba chebata, lanchin mantul nyobai, dena, dina, dindin nyomi jays. So now this is the first greatest reason that he is showing why the wondering where it will, the elephant of mind, will bring us down to the torment in the hell of unrelenting pain. No worldly beast, however wild and crazed, could bring upon us such a calamities. So now here, this he is kind of like trying to let us understand that how if one in order to practice this Mahayana path, one should guard one's mind. And if we are not guarding our mind, and what will going to happen if we don't guard our mind, our own mind? And then now to understand that, he's providing these two examples. He's trying to comparing this two example. The first is this first two line is the meaning, but meaning is also has described in the meaning, but meaning also at the same time he's also providing some kind of like a example, kind of like he's putting like this, our mind, that our mind is just like a elephant, that our mind is like an elephant, that wondering where it will, the elephant of mind. Now, this is what it is talking about, actually, mind. Here, that the mind normally, that, how to say, normal being or the normal human being, that if they listen to their mind, and their mind is really this elephant, that when we listen to our own mind, most of the time what our mind will tell us, if we don't use our intelligence, if we don't use our kind of like a logic, and if you don't use our intelligence, and if you don't use our logic, then randomly or kind of like a naturally, I'm always hesitant to saying here this naturally, but however, sometimes it is more easy to understand if we say naturally, because we have this strong habituated. So therefore, it seems like it's naturally happens within one's self. So naturally or out of habit, that most of the time, if we listen our mind without intelligence, without using intelligence, without using the logic, then what our mind will going to tell us is to do those eight more worldly, eight worldly dharma. Sometimes it says dharma, but it is not really dharma. Concerns, eight worldly concerns. Actually, in Tibetan words, it has jigden chöge, chö, and normally we refer chö translated into dharma, right? That's why they translated, I think. But it should be like eight worldly concerns. Yes. If we don't use the intelligence and logic within our mind, then if we just, without these two, if we just utilize our mind, then most of the time, highly likely that our mind will going to tell us to involve into any of those concerns, eight worldly concerns. Either our mind tell us to do any of one, or we can say like this, four activity of mundane, that either these two are very much similar, related to each others. And this is what it is saying, that what is going to happen without intelligence and logic, if we listen our mind, then our mind will going to tell us to do any of this one. Either it will going to tell us to kind of like a chase after gain, chase after achievement, or it mind will going to tell us to chase after pleasure, and or our mind will going to tell us chase after fame or praise, or that somebody that if they are getting it, then our mind will going to tell us to get jealous, and our mind will going to tell us to get rid of that, like that. So that kind of the without intelligence and logic, if we just follow that what our mind will going to tell us, if we just follow that mind will going to tell us to do us any of these things. Therefore, this Chanti they were saying, when you are kind of like wondering where it will, the elephant of mind, if we just kind of like what to say, if we just follow without any thinking or concern, just our mind, then our mind will going to tell us to do these things, which is like an elephant. And then what happens? So what? If we say, so what? If I follow my mind in this way, what is going to happen? Then will bring us down to the torment in the hell of unrelenting pain. This is what now. This is the point that Bodhicharyavatara tells, that when we don't guard our mind, when we just follow that without any rational, without any reason, without any intelligence, then how to say that if we just follow our mind, then we will going to end up with the experiencing all these things. And that type of difficulties is even the fact even cannot bring to oneself by normal crazy animals either. This is what he is saying that now. No worldly beast, however wild and crazed, could bring upon us such calamities like our mind. It is now, this is Shantideva really saying that, okay, so to let us understand that what he is really trying to say is this, that in a normal way, that if someone encounter with the crazy wild elephant, then that's considering as now your life is end here. That elephant will going to kill you, right? But what Shantideva was saying here is how that is kind of like a we consider how that is dangerous, encountering encountering with the wild crazed animal, the elephant. What is going to happen at that moment? Then you are going to be finished. I am going to finish then. My life is going to be end up there. And then that kind of like a what you call the dangerous, that how much that we can have we can little bit, when we imagine this little bit, we can have a sense of danger feeling that what it will going to be happen. But what Shantideva was saying here, how he's comparing this to here is that actually Shantideva was saying, it is nothing. This danger is nothing. If you really know that your mind of elephant, how your mind of elephant causing you the dangerous. if you really understand how your mind of elephant causing you the dangerous, then this dangerous is nothing. This is what he's talking about. Through that way, he is trying to let us have a sense that how great dangerous is to just following our this mind, our this elephant mind. Why, on the other hand, why Shantideva was saying this worldly, wild, crazy elephant, worst case scenario, it can take your life. And he cannot do more than that. But on the other hand, this mind of elephant, it can also take you the worst case scenario, it can take you your life. Not just that, and it will also take oneself to torment oneself to events and events in the lower realms, and especially in the hell realms, which really that wild elephant, wild crazy elephant won't be able to. So now this is the point that this second stanza, the Shantideva was providing the reason that if we just let it go, then let it flew. What do you call it? Sometimes it was flew. What? Flow our mind. Okay? If we flow our mind, the same language, if we flow our mind, then this mind will going to let us, force us to engage into these eight worldly concerns and so forth. By doing so, what it will going to bring within oneself is the torment in the hell of unrelenting pain, which is no beast, however wild and crazed, could bring upon us such a calamities. And then next stanza. So when you tembi tabai semdi lambo tamda jiba tamji mejush giva tamji labu. And then now next stanza, it's introducing our Shantideva here. If with mindfulness robbed, the elephant of mind is tethered all around, our fear will come to nothing, every virtue drop into our hand. Now, this is kind of like a Shantideva was introducing also that, so after understanding this second stanza, then in order not to fall oneself into that kind of great dangerous, that one, then what one should do is to threaten or tether our mind, or to guard our mind. To guard our mind, what we really need is the memory or the remembering. This is what it is saying now. Remembering or the memory. Memory or the remembering is like, it is like a rope. It is like a it is like a threaten, isn't it? Threaten?
Tether.
Huh?
Tether.
It is like a tethered. It is like a tethered. Or the rope. Here translated rope, right? Rope. Normally what do you call a rope? It's also called the tethered.
Tethered is to tie.
Tethered is to tie.
To tie.
Yes. It's like this.
Like I use the rope tethers the horse.
Tethers horse. Normally another word, it's also called for the rope, for the
Thread.
thread. Yes, right, thread.
Thread is very thin.
Very thin. Oh.
Like this, so
Okay. Thread is very thin. Thread cannot tether. Okay. You will easily break. Or the big called rope.
yeah, if you have a rip in your shirt, you can tie it with a thread.
Try it with the thread.
Yeah.
Okay.
The rope is for the horse.
Rope is for the horse to hold the big things.
You tether the
Like an elephant, like a mind, to bind that, to tether that. Okay. Anyway, so and then now if the what do you call it? So in order not to fall oneself into that dangerous, and what we really need is to tether our this mind of elephant. And what will going to be the rope to tether our elephant of mind? Remember, our memory, it's like a rope. That now what to memory? What is talking about the memory? It is talking about the memory, those which we studied, that the how to say potential of bodhicitta and bodhisattva's power, and then the disadvantage or the what do you call it? Disadvantage of transgressing or the losing, not having bodhisattva's vow within oneself, bodhicitta within oneself. Those are it is talking about. That these memories, the what do you call it? The memory Shantideva using memory or the remembering is like a rope, and then the through the memory of mindfulness. Okay, they translated with the mindfulness rope. The elephant of mind is tethered all around. If we do that, then what it will going to help us is our fear will come to nothing. Every virtue drop into our hand. Now, this stanza really what Shantideva was trying to telling us is, in order not to fall oneself into that dangerous, that one should have this mindfulness or the memory, remembering. The remembering or the mindfulness is like a rope which can tether the elephant like our mind. So actually the mind itself. Now these are the very skillful meaning that they have this kind of technique to teach their follower. Like both mindfulness doesn't have any physical form, and mind also doesn't have any physical form. Now this unphysical things should tethered by unphysical form too. But now in that for us to understand this, how this unphysical things can tether unphysical things, then they are using this very skillful like a rope, an elephant, that which we can perceive like elephant like, and then there's a physical elephant, and then the rope, we can see the rope. But actually, it is comparing with the memory and our mind, which doesn't have any form, actually physical form. If we tethered this elephant like our mind, then what it will going to be happen is the fear will come to nothing. Every virtue drop into our hand. Now, that's the kind of like a. It is something that really truth that how to say, people make mistake out of thinking, that without thinking there will be no going to make any mistakes. For example, like how can we say now, for example, like when we sleep we don't make any mistake. It is kind of like we are not thinking anything. We just fall and sleep, and there's nothing actions are involved, and then we don't create any problem. But when we wake up, then we start thinking, and when we start thinking, then we're doing something, and when we do something, then either there's a good or bad mistakes it will going to be involved. Somehow now it is really true that if we are able to tether this mind like elephant, then there will be no any fear, because kind of like this is just like being like a sleep, that you are not doing anything. So there will be no any dangerous. But on the other hand, now this Gyawatamje Laudong, every virtue drop into our hand. Every virtue drop into our hand is now. That is actually, I told you some kind of like value of our vow that we also taught this already in the first chapter, that how Shantideva described it, that the person who generate the bodhicitta, even aspiration bodhicitta, that how much benefit he or she could receive it by having that awakened mind. And top of that, the person who have a application bodhicitta, then it is, since then, even that person's doing nothing, even sleeping, right? Then is on the sanam, then is on the, what do you call it, that one? Sanam shu gyunmicheva tumashi namkanyamba ratuchums. That persons who generate the application bodhicitta, and since then onward, that even that person is doing nothing, sleeping, and all the neutral actions, but still he or she will going to accumulate the merit, the great, the vast as a space. That's how Shantideva mentioned in the first chapter. Maybe you remember that, right? So that is why, one reason why Shantideva was saying here is every virtue drop into our hand, kind of like naturally, automatically. This is how this every virtue drop into our hand. And on the other hand, it is also the fact that when we, through our mindfulness, if we care that what we doing, now this is kind of like we are using our intelligence and logic to follow our mind. When we use our intelligence and logic to follow our mind, then there's a rare chance to make mistake. And there are great chance to make something meaningful activities. But on the other hand, and when we just follow our feeling, follow our habit, then it is easy to make mistake, and it is easy to fall into the non-virtuous activity. So, however, now that this third stanza is Shantideva saying this, in what he's really introducing is the now, that he said first that person, whoever wants to keep the training, they should guard their mind. Now what it is saying, and then after that he said, what will going to happen if we don't guard our mind? With the second stanza is now he is providing reason. And then now third stanza, what he is providing is that in order to guard our mind, what we really need is the mindfulness, is the remembering, is the memory. That is what we need. If we guard our mind by rope like a mindfulness, then what is going to be happen is that one will fear will come to nothing. Fear will come to nothing, and then the every virtue drop into our hand. That is what we could achieve through the tethering the mind like an elephant by rope like a mindfulness. Now here it is really showing the mindfulness is how he is going down. To keep training, we need to guard our mind. To guard our mind, we need in order to guard our mind, we need mindfulness. Now what mindfulness actually? What mindfulness? Then the fact actually, if you don't study those precepts after receiving Bodhisattva's vow, one what should avoid, and then we don't study about those method that in order to maintain those that 4 immeasurable practice, 6 functional paramitas. If we don't know this, then there's no any object that we can use mindfulness. So just saying mindfulness is empty word then. Where one should mindful about accordance with this instruction is to mindful about those precepts that check, that kind of like a remember all those precepts and then try not to engage with it, and remember all those methods to maintain our bodhisattva's vow, such as the 4 immeasurable meditation and then 6 prajna paramita practice, which really help us. And bodhicitta itself, as I told you already, that bodhicitta itself is the great antidote of selfish, because the mind of bodhicitta is exactly contradicting with the selfishness. It is exactly antidote. I'm not saying it is very easy, but it is actually that we can logically understand. Logically, we can understand when we study, when we describe the meaning of bodhicitta, how it is describing. So the meaning of bodhicitta is the what to say? What do you call it? This one, well-being of something. How can we say? In short, normally what we say. Normally we use that word, right? For the sake of others' well-being, right? The concerns about sake of others' well-being. That sense is bodhicitta, right? So that sense, and then the I, egoness, it's exactly contradicting. It cannot have within one's mind level, within one's mind stage. If you have egoness, there will be not going to have this concerns about sake of others' well-being. When you are concerning the sake of others' well-being, there will be no egoness. This two is exactly contradicting each other. That's how it can become antidote to each other. Actually, the selfish, we don't use the antidote for bodhicitta. We don't say that, right? Because of this is negative, so negative defeating positive is, we don't say this is antidote. Positive should defeat the negative, then we use the antidote. But how in English? Antidote only can go with the positive or what? Or anything as long as it can get rid of.
Yeah, generally it's accepted that an antidote will always go with the positive. Nobody wants to
use nobody. Okay, so the antidote means you cannot use, or you cannot say this is antidote because it is get rid of others. Just generally you cannot say that. It has to be get rid of some negative things.
Nobody wants an antidote to medicine. If you're sick, you want the medicine.
Yeah.
When you talk that way, it doesn't make sense.
Yes. Yeah. But nowadays, very strange. Nowadays, they use marijuana for antidote. They think that is antidote. Now you see, it's strange, very strange now. They think that is antidote for their disease. The fact it is not, but somehow now doctors are also saying it is good. And now people most believe on doctors about this disease than the other advisor, right? Anyhow, now this is strange nowadays. Yes, they think these are antidote now. Actually, it cannot say antidote now, right? Isn't it? Antidote has to be get rid of some negative things, and then that negative also now definition of negative now. We need to check about that now. Just temporarily removing your pain. It is kind of like removing some negative or what? Right?
Yes,
Now
because pain is negative. So
You see, now the marijuana works for it. When you have marijuana, pain is gone for temporarily. Pain will going to go that until its power exhaust, right? Until the marijuana power with its exhaust. So therefore now this antidote now very stingy. However, that so bodhicitta itself. So now bodhicitta it is like a bodhicitta itself is the really opposite of our self-centered attitude. That's fact. Through explanation or through the meaning of bodhicitta, when we study, that we can understand that clearly. And then top of that, and then those four immeasurables, six panchana paramitas practice, all those mental it's also kind of like helping us to maintain that mind, the concern the sake of others' well-being. When we practice generosity, that sense also help us to maintain the concerns, the sake of others' being. Morality, it also helps. And when we meditate loving kindness, it's also helps to maintain that sense. And when we meditate compassion, it also helps to maintain that mind, that state of mind. And then rejoicing somebody. That sense, that mental also helps to keep training. It also help us to keep training. Keep training means that it also helps us to protect that sense of mind of concerning sake of others' well-being, isn't it? It's really connected. It is not necessarily, but it is somehow, it is really related. These two senses are very related. Loving kindness, sense of loving kindness, sense of compassion, sense of rejoice, sense of equanimity, and sense of generosity, sense of morality, sense of patience, sense of diligence, sense of meditation, sense of wisdom. These sense and the sense that which we have, this concerns the sake of other well-beings, are related so much. Therefore, it helps us to maintain that sense that when we generate bodhicitta, we're generating that sense. And then, so anyhow, here, mindfulness. If we don't know what to mindful, what to remember to these precepts and then these practice, then this mindfulness just becomes the empty word of mindfulness, right? So therefore, that here Shantideva using this memories, that what he is really talking about memories about all those all those studied, which we've completed, which we finished before. And those memories, those remembers can threaten our this elephant like our mind. And when through these memories could threaten mind like this elephant, then all this training can be keep training. We can keep training those. So that's how it goes back, right? That's how it goes back, and it comes front too. So in order to keep training, we need to guard our mind. In order to guard our mind, we need to understand the consequences of not guarding. And after that, what is the really main key to guard our mind is the mindfulness or the remembrance. And then now, once we come to here, then we can go back. And we can go back if we are able to treated by rope like our mindfulness to elephant like our mind. Then we can keep all those way of Bodhisattva's life training easily. That's the main key point. And then Shantideva also saying that further also he is saying that the potential or the power of being able to treat this mind of elephant by mindfulness is that whoever could do that our fears will come to nothing, every virtuous drop into hands. And then what does it mean now? Our fear will come to nothing, every virtuous drop into hands. What does it mean? Then here from this stanza number 4th and 5th, it describing the meaning of this third stanzas. Our fear will come to nothing. What our fear will come to nothing? Then it is saying, Tama senge lanchin je, Druga danan tamjeda, Semjenya visumana, Chema deshin symbona, Sem de Jibu Tawai, the Datamje Tavarjur, Sem de Jibu Tulvena, the Datamje Tulvarjurs. So now tigers and lions, elephant and bears, snakes and every hostile foe, those who guard the prisoner in hell, ghost and what is that? Ghost and ghouls. Ghouls, yeah. Ghouls is kind of like a flesh eater, right?
Could be. It's not a good thing.
Zombie.
It's like a zombie.
It's like a zombie, right? Ghouls are like a zombie. And then every evil wrath. By simply binding of this mind alone, all these things are likewise bound. By simple training of this mind alone, all these things are likewise trained. Now this two stanza, 4th and 5th, has to go together here. Now what Shantideva describing, that you remember that in stanza number 30, he said, our fear will come to nothing, right? Our fear will come to nothing. Then the person who being very mindful themselves, and then to those even temporarily and ultimate and all those long-term and short-term dangerous will not going to occur, such as now he's using like a tigers, lions, elephant and bears, snakes and every hostile force, those who guard the prisoner in hell. Now, you understand why he is saying those who guard the prisoner in hell, why he is using that. And then ghost, and then ghouls, and every evil wrath. Kind of like he's summarizing both temporarily and then the long-term dangerous can be avoided by tethering our mind through our mindfulness, which means, in short, the persons who is always being with the mindfulness, they will not going to encounter with those temporarily dangerous. That's true too, right? What do you think? It is really persons who always they know themselves what they're really doing, and they will not going to fall in dangerous. Even in a driving too, right? Even when you drive, when you really know how you are driving, how you keep distance, in every mindful, then there's a less dangerous to accident. And likewise, actually, these persons who are with the mindfulness, they will not just gonna go themselves alone in a forest. So they will not going to meet encounter with any of these wild animals. Why they have to go? There's no reason for them to go themselves alone in a forest, right? Unless, how to say, we want to do like Milarepa. Then he goes, he's himself alone, right? But people like him is now, it's really now what happened during his retreat. We just know about him after retreat, what he accomplished. And in the retreat, later he described himself, right, what happened during his retreat, how difficult he faced and everything. But anyhow, now here. So the tiger, lion, elephant, and the bear, snakes, and every hostile foe. This is talking about the temporarily dangerous. The persons who keep themselves always with the mindfulness, they will not encounter with this temporary dangerous either. And then also, not just that, also those who guard the prisoner in hell, and then ghosts and ghouls and every evil wrath. By simply binding of this mind alone, all this is temporarily, long term. Both temporary and long term, all of these dangerous things are likewise bound. When you bind your mind, all this dangerous is just bound. There will be no dangerous. By simple taming of this mind alone, all this means both that above this has to go to the stanza number 4. All this, and this temporarily dangerous, such as like a tigers, lions, element, and this natural disaster or whatsoever. And then the long-term, long-term dangerous, such as caught by those who got the prisoner in hell. What do you understand when you say this? Those who got the prisoner in hell. The person with the mindfulness, when they preserve their vow properly, then those person cannot be tormented by those got the prisoner in the hell, because the person who they are mindfulness, they will never going to fall down in hell. When you never going to fall down in hell, you don't have to see those guard the prisoner in hell. You understand what you're saying? Do you understand? Huh? No. Okay, those who guard the prisoner in hell, you understand this? Which means, okay, those Yamaraj, okay, in Sanskrit, Yamaraj, we call Yamaraj, right? The person who works in a hell. Okay, you understand? The person who works in a hell means the person who gave the sentence to the other beings. You understand now? Okay? And then now Shantideva was saying, you are free to encountering with them. The person who keep, okay, this is kind of like here, it goes again. The person through mindfulness, the rope like a mindfulness, strengthened the mind like an elephant. Then what is going to be happen? We can keep training. We can keep protect our vow. When the person protect their own vow, which will never going to pull you down to fall into the hell realm. When you don't have to go to the hell realm, you will never going to see those gods. You are free of those gods. You don't have to look those gods. You understand now? Huh? That's what it is saying. Those who guard the prisoner in hell, you don't have to see them. The person who, with the mindfulness, when they protect their vow, and they don't have to go to hell, which means they don't have to see those who guard the prisoner in hell. This is talking about long-term dangerous, right? Shantideva, what he's really trying to introduce here is that through the mindfulness, when we treated the mind like elephant, then what you really can avoid is in stanza number 30, it said, our fear will come to nothing. He said that first, right? And now stanza number 4, it is describing what he's talking about the fear. And then he's talking about the fear for the temporary, fear for the long term. Both temporary fear and long-term fear will not going to come to nothing. Okay? Fear will come to nothing. This is what it is. He is talking about the fear. The next stanza. How one can avoid all those temporary fear and long-term fear, because he's using this now, the fifth stanza. By simple binding of this mind alone, all these things, all temporary and long-term dangerous fears, these things are likewise bound. It is just like a bound. And for you, those dangerous is not exist. Right? The persons who bind their own mind, and to those, these are all just like a bound. Because it is not really bound but something is there. Shantideva, he is using this now very example. It is same as a bound. For example, that when all our enemy tethered by rope and they cannot move, even they cannot move properly, then for oneself to walk through them, it's fearless, right? We don't have to fear to walk through them. This is now it is talking about here, Shantideva. Because since all those fears, it's same like a bound. Because all those fears will not going to exist for you. Because you avoid from its beginning. You are even not making any of those fears from the beginning. Therefore, he is using, it is similar as a bound. The fact there's not really something to bound there. That's how we should understand this. And then by simple training of this mind alone, all these things are likewise changed. So the persons who mindfully guard their mind, and then they will be able to train themselves into those way of Bodhisattva's life. And when the persons could train themselves to the way of Bodhisattva's life, then all those temporary fear and then the ultimate long-term fear, it's not exist for them. So therefore, it is simply how to say, binding of this mind alone, all these things are likewise bound. By simply taming of this mind alone, all these things are likewise tamed. This is what he is talking about, Shantideva. Now, point is, these are all Shantideva was using logic to us to understand how important the God wants mind to keep training the way of Bodhisattva's life. And to guard our mind, what we really need is the mindfulness. And when we guard our mind by mindfulness, and this is how it is sufficient to bind all of our enemies, all of the fears. So, which makes us fearless. This is through kind of like a logic. Logically, Shantideva was trying to let us understand that what he said, the key point, that in order to keep training the way of Bodhisattva's life, we need to guard our mind. He said that first stanza. And then now here, why? Because of this reason. He's providing reason through the logic that why we should guard our mind. And then now, this stanza number 6 is now Shantideva's how to say, using the prophecy, what do you call it? Prophesize. Through the prophesize, Shantideva was trying to let us understand that, how to say, guarding one's mind, how important it is. Through the prophecy of Buddhas now. Now he's using the Buddha's background. So until now, he's using the logic, his own logic. He's letting us to use our logic, how important to guard one's mind. Now, logic, now plus logic, now here he is using the advice. He's using the advice that which is given by Buddha. And Buddha also said about this, how important to guide one's mind in order to keep train the way of Bodhisattva's life, or the general spiritual practice too. That what Buddha said was that 대다른 지과 탐제당 농알파도 매바야 셈을 중화 이노시 양다 숭바니기 땐스. Now this sixth stanza, now Shantideva was referring that what he said, what he used the logic to understand us how important to guard our mind. It is not just through logic, it is not just proved only by logically, but it is also proved by those great practitioners as well. And such as he is taking quotation from Shakyamuni Buddha, how Shakyamuni Buddha mentioned about guarding one's mind is important. Now this is something I always saying, that if we don't really know who is Shakyamuni Buddha, then this word is not powerful. Yes, this word is not powerful. If we really know the Shakyamuni Buddha, who was him, then these words become very powerful. That depending on knowing the persons who gave that word. Without knowing the persons who give this word, then just hearing this word, it just becomes like it is just like a kind of like a not really reliable for oneself. But however, here now, Shantideva assuming that persons who is studying this, he is assuming that all of them know the Buddha already. Therefore, he is using this here, that what he's saying, for all what do you call it? Anxiety and fears and pain and boundless quantity. Their source and wellspring is the mind itself, as he who spoke the truth declared. Now you see, why? What it is doing here now? Where is the Buddha's name here? This Buddha's another name is that who spoke the truth. Chansong Denbar Mawa in Tibetan. Buddha has a lot of names actually. Sometimes we call Victor one, right? Gyalwa. And sometimes we call this Tathagat, went beyond as it is. And then Sugata, Devarshipa, Sugata. And then capable, Tuba. And then Chomdende, many different names based on his different qualities. But anyhow, here that what Shantideva are using, his name is that who speak the truth. Who speak the truth declared. Now you see, as I told you, without understanding the Buddha, he declared, so what? Isn't it? It becomes, when we say he declared, and then somebody who doesn't know Buddha, then they're definitely gonna say, so what? He declared, so what? He declared not necessary, it's truth. They will say that, right? But person who knows the Buddha, then that this word becomes very serious. Oh, Buddha declared that. Oh, then there must be great reason behind it. One person who doesn't know Buddha, then it becomes so what? So anyhow, Shantideva now he's using this stanza, assuming that we all know Buddha. We all respect his word. So far, he used his logic to prove that guarding mind is how important it is. Now he is trying to provide another reason to firm this decision that, oh yes, the guarding mind is important, definitely. So in order to make it more firm, then he is using this. Not just only through the proving by the logic, but also Buddha declared that. By saying that, he's assuming that we will going to have more firm that guarding mind is something important. Yanda Sumbani Jitans. So this is easy to understand, right? And then Senjen Yevi Chunchanam, Sushigin Chedji, Justice Suij, Mosodita Jelishon. Then Deda Tamjayang, Semimber Tubesum, Deda Jiden Sumbona, Semle Jibashin Gamens. Then also further, continuously, he's saying, the hellish instruments to torture living beings, who invented them for such intent? Question mark. Who has what is that? Forget? Forged. Oh. Who has forged? Forged means kind of like a creating new, right?
Well, it's like a blacksmith. When he hammers a sword, metal to make a sword, that's a forge.
Yeah, forge. He is like a kind of like a pioneer. This kind of like a pioneer? Pioneer?
Pioneer?
Uh-huh.
No, not a pioneer. No.
It is new creator, right? New creator.
Oh, yes,
Forge.
yes.
New creator.
Basically, it means to make.
To make.
Yes.
Kind of like a creator.
To create.
To create, yeah, to forge, right?
Yes.
Who has forged this burning iron ground? Whence have all this demon woman sprung? Sprung? Sprung. What is sprung?
Appear.
Sprung is just appear.
Yeah, it's like water
Mm-hmm.
springs out of the ground. They call it a spring.
Okay.
It appears.
Okay, sprung. Whence have all these demon women sprung? Actually, here they translated demon woman, but actually there's no really demon in our Tibetan letter. Just woman, or just kind of like a woman, yeah, just woman, sprung, question mark. All are but the offspring of the sinful mind. This the mighty sage has said. Now here. Mighty sage is the another name of Buddha. Throughout the triple world, therefore, there is no greater band than the mind itself. That's what Buddha said. Now these three stanza, Shantideva keep continue using that how Buddha said about. Yes. Logically, he is trying to let us understand how important to guard our mind. And also at the same time, he also trying to let us understand that what is the fault that if we don't guard our mind. Okay? Both these 2 points that he's trying to let us understand. How important to guard our mind and what will going to be the fault if we don't guard our mind. Through logically and precisely, right? Precisely and logically. Does it make sense? Precisely. He's trying to let us understand these 2 points through precisely and through logically. The 2 points are how important to guard our mind. If not, what it can be create, what it can be create the dangerous for oneself, what it can be bring dangerous to oneself. This is the 2 point that he is trying to let us understand through this. The hellish instruments to the tortured living beings who invented them for such intent, who has forged this burning iron ground. This is easy to understand, right? It's not difficult to understand. It is easy to understand. But however, the point we should get it that all are but the offspring of the sinful mind. Conclusion is this. This is the conclusion. This, the mighty sage has said that he is using this prophecy. Shantideva was using these prophecies to confirm that this is it because of mighty sage said. That's the one using the prophecy here. Throughout the triple world, and now this triple world, you understand this triple world, right? Triple world.
No, I don't.
Normally we can call like desire realm, form God realm, and formless God realm. That is considered as a triple world. And also sometimes we use like a soul setting salar. Sibasum. Yeah, Jiktensum, Sibasum. Jiktensum. Okay, Jiktensum is more better to understand in this way. Desire realm, form God realm, formless God realm. So that's triple world. There's no any other beings than this. There's no any other ordinary beings. What do you call that? I made it mass here. Myself, not you. You don't need to confuse here. I made it mass myself here. Okay. So these are the three worlds where beings are relied. Right? Either being who rely on desire realms or form God realms or formless God realms. There's no any other world realms than these three. So he's concluding, which means what he's really trying to concluding is that wherever appearance exists, how can I say now this? I stuck here. Okay, the point is, mind is the very key. No matter wherever you are, the problem creator is your mind. Even you are in a formless God realm, still mind will go into create problem. Even we are in a form God realm, still mind is the one who create all problems. And then desire realm, we seeing it, we experiencing it. So the conclusion is the mind is the one that we create any kind of problems that you understand what I'm trying to say. Now I'm a little bit mass myself. But do you get it, what I'm trying to say? That there is no greater band than the mind itself. No matter wherever we belong, no matter wherever we're born. That's what it is concluding here. Okay, so maybe we stop here. So the point here is the second stanza to first stanza is the very brief instruction that in order to keep training, protect our bodhisattva's vow, and what we really need to protect, guard is our mind. If we don't guard our mind, we won't be able to preserve our bodhisattva's vow. And then from second stanza to the eighth stanza, those 7 stanzas. And then first, second, third, and fourth, fifth stanza. These are the 4 stanza. Shantideva was using logic to let us think, let us contemplate ourselves to how important the guarding our mind, what the consequences will going to be if we don't. Letting us use our logic. And then next 3, like 6th, 7th, and 8th stanza. 6th, 7th, and 8th stanza, these 3 things, and he's using the what do you call it? Not philosophy. Forgot now. Long. I just said it.
Prophecy.
Prophecy. He's using prophecy to confirm that how important guarding one's mind and that how dangerous not guarding our mind. Okay, so this is the main 2 points that he's trying to letting us understand. If you have questions, then we can discuss a little bit. If you don't have question, then we eat lunch. Sanam de thamje sebani thomne nyebe janam thamje ne shega na che wala tubai sebe thole doa shu jamba pave jidara kemba kundu sambo de ande shende deda kunje jesu tabo gewan deda tamje ragdo mo gewan de shivu Sanam Yeshe Tsozo, Sanam Yeshe Legion, Tamba Kunye Babarasho, Sanje Kusum Nyebe Chenam, Chunye Menjura Dembe Chenam, Gendem Meche Dembe Chenam, Jedaramo Melam Babarasho. By this beneficial activity, may I obtain omniscience, and having vanquished the harmful enemy, greed, anger, delusion, may I liberate all being tossed about helplessly by the wave of birth, aging, illness, and death in the ocean of becoming, by conforming to the knowledge of the courageous Manjushri, Jambalyam, and in the same way as Samendabhadra, Kundusambo, and following their example, I dedicate perfectly all this virtue. By this virtue, may all beings perfectly achieve the accumulation of merit, sonam, and wisdom, yeshe, and may they thereafter obtain the two holy bodies which result from these two accumulations. By the blessing of the Buddha, Sangye, who obtained the three bodies, by the blessing of the immutable truth of the Dharmata, Cheni, by the blessing of the infallible aspirations of the Sangha, Gentin, may this prayer of dedications be accomplished just as it is.